Climb into the cockpit with pilot and Likewize's Chief Legal Officer Tim Parilla as he invites legal leaders aboard to share advice that will help you navigate even the most turbulent times of in-house counsel work. We'll cover a range of topics from data privacy to legal team structure to public company transactions and beyond. You don't want to miss this series. Fasten your seatbelt and prepare for takeoff. You're listening to Cockpit Counsel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Tim. I'm the Chief Legal Officer at Likewize, and this is another episode of Cockpit Counsel. Today, with us, we have Stacey Shaw, and we're going to talk about mental health for lawyers. So, Stacey, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thanks for taking the time. It's going to be a great conversation. So, first, I asked everybody this question: what is your pre-flight ritual before you're getting on a plane? What do you do?
You know, I actually love flying. I've never been afraid, so mine's actually kind of fun. There used to be a lot of TCBYs around me, but now there's not. There's only one at the airport. So now that I have TSA pre-check, I just get there early and get my TCBY fill. It's just always what I've been doing before all my flights lately.
That's awesome. What's your go-to flavor?
I like the tart vanilla.
Nice. Very cool. For me, it's, it varies. It varies depending on whether I'm the one flying or if I'm in the back of the bus. In the back of the bus, I usually get there, listen to music, and maybe, depending on the time of day and how rough of a day it's been, grab a drink. But then if I'm flying, usually just cut out the drink and go through checklists. So, well, today we're going to be talking about mental health for legal professionals, and I know that this is something that's really important to you, and you've been just an incredible advocate in the space. So, maybe before we get into that, we'd love to just hear a little bit about you, quick, 30-second, 1-minute bio, what you're doing now, where you're working, and sort of a little bit about your career path.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is a topic that I'm very passionate about and was excited when the team approached me to do this. So currently I'm Associate General Counsel at a company called Likewize. We're based in Southlake, Texas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So primarily throughout my career, I've been in-house counsel, working in various roles in the legal department, started with the government, Small Business Administration, Office of Disaster Assistance, actually right after Hurricane Katrina. So I was there for a few years, but like I said, I have spent most of my career in-house doing mortgage for a good part of my career, and now back doing insurance that I had done before as well.
It's great to be in-house, isn't it?
You get to work with so many different groups and departments. I do really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. What is your main focus? Are you primarily doing commercial stuff, or is there more on sort of the regulatory side, managing litigation? I'd imagine in the insurance space is an issue too.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. I was head of legal and compliance for one of our business units, and then also doing legal ops, managing our contract management system and our corporate governance. So had been doing a little bit of everything, but we going to be transitioning actually into a more compliance role over US and Canada. So super excited about that opportunity. It just will help continue to expand my experience in legal and compliance, and I'm just really looking forward to it.
That's awesome. How did you end up getting into the legal ops portion of your career, and how has that changed the way that you think about acting as an associate GC now?
Yeah, I love legal ops, and I speak at other events. It's something I'm very passionate about. I got into it just because there was no one else working on it. I was doing my role, and we needed to implement matter management, e-billing, contract management. So I have always been interested in technology. I mean, since the 5th grade, when my mom got me a 286 computer and I was typing. So I've always she always had me interested in technology. She would read CNET and all the magazines. So I've always been interested in technology. And then I got really excited about AI and other types of streamlining processes in the legal department, because I did see, everywhere I worked, there were always opportunities for improvement and streamlining, lots of manual processes, ink signatures. So I obviously adopted, worked on learning electronic signatures and just how can I make my job easier and more efficient. So just kind of fell into it just by this was doing it part-time in addition to my role, but it's something that I actually really enjoy and like training others on.
Yeah, the technology aspect and bringing that into the operation of the legal function is really, really interesting. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased working for a legal tech company, but it's really cool. I mean, it's kind of like the last frontier. You look at every other part of the business, and they're implementing some meaningful amount of technology as a day in and day out basis, and the legal function is starting to catch up. I think it's a great thing. So, and we could go on for hours and hours about that, but let's get into the mental health side of the business, which is arguably a lot of times even more important than the operational side. So, in our prep, we talked a bit about the 8 pillars of wellness. Would love to have you walk us through that. And, if you think that's the right place to start, or if you want to give kind of an overview of how you think about, mental health within the legal profession, and then get into the pillars. I'll turn it over to you and just sort of let you run with it from here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can start with how I got into it, I've always been focused on nutrition for years and the physical wellness. So we'll talk about that as we get into the pillars, like traditional types of things when people think about wellness. And, the other aspects too, I didn't really realize that I was doing wellness. And it wasn't until October in 2020. So we're at the first year of COVID. I attended my first Association of Corporate Counsel annual meeting, and it was virtual. And they had all of these wellness sessions, and I signed up for like every single one of them except for the Peloton, because I didn't have Peloton. But I signed up for all these sessions because I was feeling, like many other people, isolated and stressed. I mean, was grateful to have a job, but was working a lot of hours and didn't have a lot of boundaries because my desk was always there. So was really interested to hear what they had to say, because I'd heard about meditation and mindfulness, but I was like, I cannot sit on a park bench for an hour every day. I mean, who has time for that? So it was really inspirational when I took the first wellness course, and Joe Calioma and Jeff Compagnano, they have become the mentors to me in this space. They had started a wellness initiative in Southern California in the SoCal chapter for the ACC, and they had talked about how they started it, and Jill really spoke to me when she said, I always thought I couldn't sit still. I'm a busy corporate attorney. How can I sit still long enough to do mindfulness? And I was like, that's exactly how I feel. But she says it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be an hour. It doesn't have to be 45 minutes. It could be 5 minutes. Start small. So that kind of started me on the path. And she told me about this course called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. It was introduced by John Kabat-Zinn many years ago. So I ended up taking that course as well. And it gave me so many kind of tools and tricks as I go on this journey, because it is a practice. I mean, certainly after you take the course, it's not, okay, now you're always calm and have no stress in your life. It's all about awareness and being in the present moment. So I also then started an initiative in the DFW chapter where I live, and have now been a part of the ACC Global Advisory Committee, and it's been great. We had a panel at the last meeting, and we'll be doing programming again at the annual meeting, because it's something that the others are very passionate about.
That's incredible. That's a great journey. And how have you seen attendance over the past couple of years? Obviously, at the height of pandemic, when everybody was working from home. I mean, I know every lawyer I speak with talks about the complete lack of boundaries that happen when you're already used to working at home after being in the office all day. Like, those boundaries they don't stop, and that can be really overwhelming. But how have you seen now with some of the return to office? How have you seen the focus? have you seen sort of attendance in those wellness sessions continue to be high, or has it kind of waned a little bit?
It definitely, I think it has. But I think during the pandemic, it was hard, obviously, to do things in person. So we had to get creative. And one of the things that I'm a big proponent of and always try whenever I'm, speaking or moderating a CLE is to incorporate wellness into it. Because then we did an event where it was called the CLT. We had a mindful tea experience and then had the CLE after. So, if people think, hey, I need to get my CLE, but I also want to enjoy it. So I always encourage people and always try to work in wellness. This one is all about wellness, so I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I think now people are really seeing now that they can get out and do things again. It was so great to meet people in person that I had only seen on Zoom at the ACC annual meeting. It was so great to see so many people, and I think people really are trying to incorporate it into their life. And I love hearing tips from other people as well every time we do these sessions. And we just I always look forward to learning more tips and see how other people are incorporating it into their legal department or their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the 8 pillars of wellness, would love to get into that. And again, more than happy to have a guest star here if need be.
Well, as I said, we always it's good to incorporate buddies or your kids. And I'm home from working at home today. My kids are home from school. We've had a bad snow day, but I do think it's important to incorporate buddies and your family, because it will help encourage accountability and just makes it more fun doing family stuff together. They're actually working out right now. So in terms of the 8 pillars of wellness, I mentioned earlier, physical. So then there's social, emotional, occupational, financial, spiritual, intellectual, and environmental. Now there's some, resources where you could see there's less or different ones. They may be categorized differently, but I liked this because I actually got it from a law school called Santa Clara, in California.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I really liked about it is that that law school is really focused on wellness for the law students, because that was something that came out of the ABA study on lawyer impairment from 2017 that was done in conjunction with the Hazleton Betty Ford. It actually showed that law students were experiencing more issues, and so I really liked what that law school is doing, and how they talk about all these different areas that I hadn't always thought about before. Like I said, some, of course, physical and emotional wellness, financial, but some of these things I hadn't really thought about, like environmental wellness and occupational wellness, which in law school you don't really think about because you're not working yet. But now, once you get out into the world and you graduate, it is really important. And that's what has now been my focus for the last several years, is how do you incorporate wellness into the legal department?
Yeah, that's the law school aspect is interesting for a lot of different reasons, but that's an area where I know for me, my like mental well-being has progressed in a meaningful way from that time, where you have sort of your whole career in front of you, and there's this idea that you have to be right at the top of your class, or you have to get that first job. And then at that first job, you've got to be, you're at a firm and you got to be on partner track or whatever it may be. And every little setback is that much more meaningful, because on the whole, your timeline hasn't been that significant yet. And I found that, and I've made thousands of mistakes throughout my career, and almost every single one of them felt like it was the end of my career, but fortunately it hasn't been yet. But then, like, once you're actually out into the workforce, it definitely starts to change as you get some of the experience through the years. Things you learn to manage them from a mental health perspective a little bit differently. But I would love to hear how you're incorporating some of the mental health aspects that we're talking about here today into operating with your legal department.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as I mentioned, one of the first easiest way was at a prior company, the GC had asked me to start setting up some CLEs with our outside counsel, and I encouraged them. I mean, obviously, we had to look at, we would deal with regulatory, legal content, but then I always would encourage them, like, please work in some wellness, figure out how we can do that. And came out of that was the road to equity and wellness in the workplace. We ended up doing a panel for the ACC. So incorporating it into your day to day. Also, as you start meetings, before just diving in, maybe take a pause, take a moment, hey, let's just take one breath. Because sometimes for me, even just one breath makes all the difference. So a lot of us go back to back to back meetings all day, and it takes a toll on you. And so I think as a legal department leader, you can start your meetings, or if you're in any other meetings, then you can just start with a breath. The other things too is really checking in with your team. Yeah. That's something that you don't think probably may have as big of an impact, but it really does. And I've heard it actually from my team, and I think that if you use Microsoft Office 365, there's Viva Insights in the I'm sorry, hang on a second.
No worries at all.
Oh, so checking in with your team. So in the Microsoft Viva Insights, it's something you can add to Teams, and it's great. You can send praise to your team, and sometimes even little things like that really do impact your team's day. Like you can tell them, hey, you're awesome if they've had a really hard week or they've helped you with a really big project. I like to do that. And it can even set reminders for you, which I know it sounds kind of funny, like you'd have to have a reminder to send praise, but it is something where it's helpful for me, because if a lot of things are not on my calendar, I sometimes do just get caught up, and then you get emails. So it's something that you can also do check-ins as well. It has different emojis where you can say, how are you feeling today? Just like in the Calm app. So I really like it. I encourage teams to look at it, because it also does encourage you to manage your day too, block times for focus, which I know I have tried in the past. Like I always try to block my lunch because I like to work out on lunch. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but at least if you block that time, or you block work time, because especially if you're in meetings for 8 hours a day, how are you supposed to get the work done? So I do think the Viva Insights is really great for work-life balance, and it has Headspace, also meditations. So it's a really cool thing that I always like to tell everybody about, and really just checking in with your team and making sure that you're supporting them, like emotionally, because the mental health aspect really can impact their work. I know when I've had team members struggling, and I tell them, look, why don't you just take the rest of the day? If something has come up, because if they're there, they're not going to be focused on work. They're just going to be thinking about what's going on. So I think it's better, and it shows, look, I'm understanding about mental health, and I want people to feel comfortable to tell me, because what we talked about at the ACC meeting was that some people are asking, like, how do you tell your managers if you're having mental health issues, is because unfortunately there is a stigma around it. So I like to be open about it, and everyone knows that I speak on this topic, and I want it to be a space where people can feel comfortable talking about it, because I think asking for help and knowing that it's okay to not be okay, and knowing that there are resources, there are people that care. And I have just heard really positive feedback from my team when I say, look, why don't you just take the rest of the day? I will cover for you. I will make sure, just let me know if you have something that I need to follow up on. And it makes all the difference. And to me, that's what really can make the work better for your team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we do here is at the beginning of each meeting, we do share your personal good news, and then share some business good news. And maybe you're in a situation where, like, you don't have a ton of personal good news, but something stressful is going on. Like, it's fine. Share your personal bad news if you want to, right? If you need to get something off your chest, right? And then also looking at being able to, I think everybody's gone through that where something's happening, maybe you have, a sick child, sick family member, or, you're having some sort of an interpersonal issue with some friends or significant other, whatever it may be. If you're not in the right headspace when you come in, and whether you're working on litigation, whether you're working on a contract, like, you're just not going to put out the same quality of work that you would put out if mentally you're in a right space and you're focused. I mean, especially in the practice, in the part of the practice of law that really takes those analytical skills to get the job done. If you're not 100% dialed in, your work is just going to suffer, and you probably end up having to do it again. So giving people that opportunity is to just take the time, get into the right headspace is I think really important. Thinking about maybe some other tactical steps that you've seen at companies, or other suggestions that either you've made at the ACC level or that you've heard from others. What are some easy things that people could do as an individual? Like, I'm a staff attorney somewhere. What can I do to really, like, just something that's not earth shattering, but something that will maybe help me alleviate some stress, or at least get my mind in the right spot?
Yeah, I think, whether you're a legal leader or a not legal leader, everyone has a voice, and especially the legal department can be the advocate for all other departments as well. So partnering with HR is a really good start. I mean, a lot of companies have employee assistance programs, but some don't. At least just making those aware, and determining whether maybe you can form a committee or a group within the company to try to see what makes sense for your company, because what makes sense for one may not for the other. But it's little things, really just speaking your mind and saying, what kind of wellness works for you, because what works for me may not work for you. And it's really kind of trying a bunch of different things and sharing, feeling like you can share, like it sounds like you do, where you ask people to do check-ins. And yeah, it's not supposed to be a 30-minute event session, but people really do want to know that someone cares. And I think, especially being in a legal department, when you're listening to other people's problems, or you're solving problems, and you have demands and deadlines and a stressful environment, it's nice to know that someone else is listening. But be your own advocate, and tell your managers, if you are a staff attorney, say, this is something that I'd like to implement within our team. Is it something that we could do? And I've done that before. And sometimes I say, well, maybe we could do it this way, or modify, or yeah, that's a great idea, let me think about it. Sometimes timing isn't always right, but you will never know unless you ask. And so I think people should ask for what they want and what would help them, because some teams do like doing team building, but some don't. And it's also always not a good idea to go to happy hour, especially if there are others on the team, if there's some on the team that either don't drink, or are trying to limit that for a variety of reasons, because of mental health issues, substance abuse. So not always thinking of happy hours, not the only way that you can promote wellness within your team. Like, think beyond that. Like, for me, my paralegal and I, we would go work out together on our lunch break, and it was great because even if we weren't working together, we would hold each other accountable. Hey, are you going to the gym? And so find ways within your own team to get a buddy, to have accountability, and do things that you enjoy. And I just think there's so many opportunities, and I could go on for hours about it.
So I wanted to touch quickly, maybe a little bit more specifically, on the ACC Global Wellness Committee. What are some of the goals and priorities there for you in the next, let's just call it 12 months, right?
Yeah, we're working on planning the programming for the next year. We will be at the ACC annual meeting, but really just now that we're back in person, it's exciting. Now we have an opportunity to do a more a creative, innovative type format in addition to the panel. So definitely check out the website in the next coming months as we continue to finalize. But you can see prior programs as well, and there's a ton of resources. So for us, I think getting back into doing the check-ins is something that we'll probably look into, where we used to have we did those in the past where we would allow people to come in and share how their day has been, share what's going on in their lives, and share tips and practices as to what's helped them personally in their legal department. So yeah, definitely I encourage everyone to check out the resources on the ACC Wellness page to watch our prior programs and then to register for future ones.
Excellent. And I think we actually have a couple of questions here from the folks dialed in. Alyssa, do you want to get us kicked off?
Yes. So first one is, are there any upcoming events that you'd recommend we attend to address well-being?
Well, we're still working to finalize our programming for the year, but I definitely check out the website and register. But you can see past programs, and you can see resources, articles, other types of great content that we've done over the past few years. Because this is fairly new, and it actually started really right before COVID. So the good news is that they were able to kind of start this right before COVID, but then the challenges with doing everything virtually. But I think really just encouraging people to reach out to their own local chapters, because we operate on the global level, trying to encourage really the chapters to form initiatives.
Great. Another question: what is the number one thing to do as a new manager to help your legal team deal with stress management?
Well, there's so many options. I think really asking your team what they need and the resources that they need, and making sure they know that they are supported. I know for me, just sometimes even having a voice and being able to say, look, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I need additional resources, and explaining why. I've been working 12 hours a day, I need an additional help, and this is how we can put together an RFP proposal to add additional staff, which I know is sometimes hard working in lean legal departments, but really just setting them up for success and asking them what is it that they need to do their job in the best way possible, and what things can you do as a manager, because everyone has different styles. And that's whenever I get a new team member, I always try to ask them, what is your preferred communication style, right? Some people, especially when we're back in the office, in-person meetings, emails, Teams messages. I think it's important to understand somebody's preference and communication, because then I think they tend to be more receptive. If you're asking them, hey, what works for you, versus, oh, I prefer doing emails, right? But maybe that person prefers in-person meetings and likes to have that face-to-face connection, then coming to them, meet them where they are.
That's a great answer. Another one. So the mindfulness-based stress reduction course that you spoke about, what was the main takeaway, or one of the best takeaways from that changed the way that you operate?
Oh, I really loved the course, and each session, each week was a different kind of topic, and that it's really it's about awareness. My mind will always be racing, and that's okay, but it just try to pull yourself back in. Try to focus on the present moment. So it's not about, oh, you're going to never have stress and you'll never be stressed. It's how do you manage that stress? Learning your triggers, right? For me, it was really thinking about, how do I feel when I'm feeling stressed? I feel it in my shoulders, I feel it in my stomach, and really just that awareness, because it is a practice. It's called the practice of mindfulness. It's not something that as soon as you take the course, you're good to go and you're stress free. It's learning strategies to help you. We learned about mindful eating, mindful walking, things that I had never thought about before, right? Like actually taking the time to enjoy my food versus just scarfing down a keto bar at my desk. It's really just enjoying thinking about too, your feet hitting the ground. It makes such a difference. But the final thing that I thought was really cool that I didn't think that I would be able to do was we did this silent retreat. They have the more kind of, this was only for 6 hours, but they actually have retreats where you go on, it will be for a much longer period. But I did go 6 hours without talking. Didn't even talk to my dog. It was a really cool experience because it really forces you to focus on your inner thoughts and awareness. And now the instructor was talking, but it was just the coolest experience. And I just think that it's something that if you're interested in mindfulness, take a look at some of the courses. There's lots of different options, but see if it's something that would be interesting to you, because it just teaches you some coping strategies where, it's easy to say, oh, well, you should just meditate. Well, maybe meditation doesn't work for you. Like, I didn't like the body scan part. It just didn't really work for me. I just fell asleep. But there were other things that I really, really enjoyed, like some of the breathing exercises and, finding just what works for you.
Well, that's Stacey. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time to sit with us today. It's been just an incredible conversation, and yeah, any parting thoughts, anything maybe that we didn't cover that you want to make sure you get out there?
Well, thanks for having me. This is a topic I'm very passionate about, and I was so excited to be a part of it. So yeah, my parting thoughts are baby steps, right? It doesn't have to be what you think you see or read on the internet. Find what works for you. Try a bunch of different things. Look, there's tons of apps out there. There's tons of articles, resources. Reach out to any of us, people that are advocating for this and the ACC. We want to help. We want to bring the resources, and just know that it's okay. Take baby steps, even if it's 5 minutes a day. Right? Find something that works for you. It doesn't have to be something that is overwhelming. Start small, and then you can build on it. And then one final practice that I always like to share, because it's something that I really like, and it's very easy to work into your day, is the practice of gratitude. So there's lots of ways you can do this, but I think the easiest is really just to, you wake up in the morning, you're getting ready, think about one thing that you're grateful for every day. And it not just obviously your family and friend like that. It's thinking beyond that. Like, sometimes it will be a fall weather, right? If you're in Texas and it's 110 degrees, fall weather is something that you're grateful for. But really just pushing yourself to practice gratitude and think about the things that you're grateful for.
Awesome. Stacey, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time. And I look forward to seeing you at the latest. I'll see you at the ACC event in the fall. So
thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Stacey. Please follow us, like us on all the socials, and we will see you next time.